Okay, well, welcome everybody, and I am delighted to have with us today. My name's Sheila, by the way, Sheila Bassand, and we're recording some what we're calling tapas, which are tasty tidbits, with our upcoming speakers for Viva 2016. And I'm delighted to have two really good friends here with me today. We've got Gillian Fox and Don DC, Mr. DC, both sitting in the UK, and I'm sitting here in sunny, very warm Spain. I'm not going to waffle on at the beginning about Viva or what we're talking about. The idea of these interviews, these conversations, are to give you a sense of what is available at Viva, to give you a sense of who our speakers are and what they've got to share with us. So we're going to try and do this in about 30 minutes. And so I'd just like to throw out my first question to Gillian. We'll do ladies first. Have to read my question because I forgot what it is already. What has been a major change you've seen or experienced as a result of deepening your understanding about the three principles, which is what Viva's about, really, is coming along to Viva, experiencing, having a wonderful experience and listening to what the speakers have got to share and what comes up for us in terms of, today we're talking about well-being.
Yeah, hi Sheila, hi Don.
Nice.
Coincidentally, I was just looking at my Facebook feed before we were talking about what we're talking about now, and I noticed that it's a year since I was in Salt Spring and at the school with Elsie Spittle and Chip Chipman, and I was thinking back and realised that I saw something hugely impacted me when I was over there, and it was something Chip was talking about when we come into this world with no ego. You know, we come in as wonderful, joyous, spontaneous, new beings. You know, we've got no judgment. We're not afraid of failing. And we start rolling down the hill of life. And we're like a big snowball. We just gather all this stuff around us that we take to be true. Somebody says something about us and we form an opinion of ourselves. We make something up about what somebody else said to us. You know, we lose sight of that joyousness, that spontaneity that we're naturally is our birthright. And the more we roll down the hill, the bigger our snowball gets, you know, all this stuff, this opinion, this belief, and this limitation that we have for ourselves, that I couldn't possibly do that because I tried it before and it didn't work. Somebody said I'd be no good at that. You know, I've been told I can't sing. And that is now true for me, you know, and it may or may not be true. I'm not going to try it now. And so that limits my way of expressing myself. And we all have these snowball things, and occasionally we might just ding into a rock on the way, and maybe it just cracks a little bit of something that we thought was us, identity, ego. And we lose sight of what's inside, that core well-being that we all have, whether we know it or not. It's there, you know, like little pilot lights. Sometimes they're bigger, sometimes they're really, really dim, but it's that innate well-being that we've all got. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today, is how we can lose sight of it, and the fact that it is always there, you know, and we can just make up a load of stuff to try and disprove that, but yeah, it's always there. So that's what I'm remembering for myself, you know, always there.
Cool. I love that. Thank you, Gillian. Do you want to take the baton on that then, Don, now?
Wow. You know, our well-being is always there. There's no question. And what I've come to see is that it's kind of what's there when we're not doing other things. Now, I truly love what Gillian said because, well, I love Gillian, but also, you know, we're story-making machines. Our whole life is a story. And we kind of lose sight of the fact that we're creating that story, and that we can rewrite that story at any time. We can change the theme. And that's kind of what free will is. So me and Gillian have been talking about this, that, we can say, well, free will is, I choose to do something. But there's a flip side to it we often don't look at, and that is, I can choose not to believe something. So as we go along, we build up a story of who we are, and I think, we need that. We need that to navigate through the world. But it's kind of like we start drinking our own Kool-Aid. We put this story out about who we are, and we try to live to that, and so on and so forth. And then sometimes the situation, it doesn't serve the story. And we forget that, well, we're making it all up. And surely if the principles point to one thing, it's that we are making it all up. And when we talk about well-being, there's a whole industry out there, isn't there, on well-being and how you've got to find it, where you go. And yet, we don't find it there. And it seems to be, well-being is what we're doing when we're not doing other things. And it doesn't matter about the situation. Now, that was a hard one for me to get my head around, to be honest with you. But it really doesn't matter about the situation. It's about how we're engaging in the situation, how we're engaging in life in the moment. So well-being is something that we all have. It's innate in us as our digestive system, our nervous system, our pulmonary system, you name it, it's there. We just lose sight of it from time to time. And one of the things Gillian were talking beforehand is, if I said to you, right, I want you to breathe naturally, just relax and breathe naturally. The one thing you're not going to do is relax and breathe naturally, because you're now thinking about something that you do naturally. So, I looked up, what does well-being mean? And they said, well, optimum state of health, fitness, relaxation, all the rest of that. Well, I'm not sure what that means. I think well-being is appropriate. It's appropriate to the moment. And sometimes, Don, Sheila, Gillian, we can be quite angry and still be in our well-being, because it's appropriate in that moment to be angry. But if after the situation has passed, we're still angry, well, that's not appropriate. So it's about understanding that it's a flow. It's just a graceful way of going through life and adapting to what's in front of you.
I love that, Don. Thank you. I'm just changing our view. But yeah, I love that it made it sound like there's a lot to drop.
Well, it seems to be
more a dropping away than an adding on, is what I was hearing in what you were saying.
Yeah. And we often talk about trust, don't we? And one of the things that I like to do with my clients is look back over their lives, but look at it from a different perspective, on how at one time you can be really angry, depressed, whatever, but you don't stay that way. What changes? Now, we can wax on about, well, your thinking changed, but really, it's you got bored. You got bored and you moved on, and you found something new. And we don't see that. If we're looking outside, we're looking, well, the situation changed it. Well, it didn't. It didn't. We chose to see things differently.
That's interesting, isn't it? Well, let me move to the next question, because I'm aware of our time, and I've got 3 questions that I really would like you both to dig into, if you like. The second one's, what's been of significant help to you on your understanding journey with regard to well-being, particularly today we're talking about. So do you want to take that one, Gillian?
Yes, I will. No, I don't know, my internet is looking a little iffy, so I hope you can still see and hear me.
I can, yeah. It's a little bit, but we can read.
Yeah. And I'm going to almost jump to something that Don talked about with well-being doesn't matter about the situation. And use an example from a wrist. Because there's a real root insight, if you like, because I was one day away from a holiday, which I was driving up to 4-hour journey, and I happened to go to a Pilates exercise class, and in a moment everything changed, because I was doing a very nice balancing exercise on one of those Swiss balls where you're kneeling on it and your hands are in the air and you're going, look at me, haha, I'm so good at this. And I lost my concentration, and the next minute I'm falling to the floor, and of course I put my right hand out to stop fall and fell onto a concrete floor, and there was and I sat there and swore very loudly, and just sat, oh, I think something's broken, and okay, everything just changed. What I thought was going to be, what I planned was going to be, is probably not now going to happen. And, you know, there was a long story about going to the hospital and just totally being with that situation, but not being worried about it, knowing that, you know, my body has a healing mechanism. This is probably going to take a bit of time, but I'm just going to go with what I've got at the moment, because it's all I've got. And going through a flow of being taken to the hospital, being seen by somebody who gave me an injection that he said, you know, it's going to help the pain because we're going to have to reset it. And just lying there going, I have no control over this. I am just going to have to put my trust in what you know, your medical knowledge, and my trust in my innate well-being, and just see what happens. And I had a nurse standing by with gas and air, because this was going to hurt. You know, they kind of kept emphasising this is going to hurt. I go, oh no, I don't like pain. And I just kind of went, okay, just get on with it. And she looked at me and she said, do you want some gas now? I went, no, I'm fine. And I didn't need any gas in there, and it was vaguely uncomfortable, but you know, whatever he'd given me as the injection had deadened it. And I was just being with what was going on, and going, oh, this is a whole new experience, never been to hospital before like this. And the nurse said to me afterwards, she said, you've got to be the most relaxed person we've had in here for ages. And I said, nothing I can do about it, you know, this is what's happened, this is what's so at the moment. And there's this little voice inside me going, you're going to be okay, whatever happens with this, you know, it may not be what you had planned, but hey, you know, how can we ever know what we planned? And that process kind of went on all through the, whatever it was, 5 weeks in plaster, you know, of just doing what felt appropriate, resting when I needed to, going to physio, you know. And I remember I was flying off on a retreat with Jamie Smart, helping out, the sort of midway between the 5-week process, and I just checked up and said, am I going to be all right to fly? And they said, yes, we might have to just cut the cast slightly. And at no time did I feel my innate well-being had been compromised. My physical well-being, yes. And I think that's a distinction. I think Maureen made that yesterday very well. There's a distinction between our physical well-being and our innate well-being, our being well and our innate well-being, that I certainly used to get muddled with. And so this clarity that I got from this experience helped me see that as a distinction, as an insight of, and reinforced, if you like, the understanding that I'm always okay. I'm always okay, even when I die. I'll be okay. That little pilot light, that's not connected to the physical form. You know? That'll still be around. Ego Gillian. No. Oh well. It's the biggest oh well we can have, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, Gillian. I love the feeling of that story. And I have heard you talk about, obviously, we've known each other for quite a while now. And I know that that story of you breaking your wrist is really, I think it taught you a lot in the time, if I remember correctly. And it is very powerful that what came to me when we were talking about the hospital was that we create our own drama, don't we, obviously? You know, the drama around it and of any situation is created by us. We don't see that.
And how that interacts with anybody else's story. You know, the nurse had a story running that she's going to need gas and air. And I kind of, you know, I would have been the first one to grab it if I'd needed it.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Yeah. So I wasn't really buying into that one.
Yeah, because you're not saying it was I had less pain. You're just noticing that the whole experience was you made, if you like. And
that's what occurred to me in my, my reality at that moment.
Yeah, thank you for that. So handing over to Don then. How about you?
I got to admit, I got so caught up in what Julie was saying, I've forgotten the question. What was the question again?
What's been of significant help to you with understanding on your understanding journey?
Well, I don't think I used this metaphor actually with Mark a while ago. If you were to take a pint of water and you were to put a drop of understanding and dye in it, it wouldn't stay in one place, it would infuse throughout the whole glass. And that's kind of what happens with this understanding. The more you look at it, the more you become grounded in it, the more everything changes. So what's changed for Don? Well, certainly his relationships have changed. But also, if we're talking on where I'm at right now is on a very practical use of the principles, and the way I engage with my clients in the clinic has certainly changed. The way I engage with my clients in the practice when I'm coaching using the 3 principles has changed. The more grounded I've become, I see things differently. And I definitely see that as I change, how I see them change, and how I see them allows them to change. So there's kind of a knock-on effect as I go along. I mean, this has always been going on. You don't know this, but in 2001 I had bowel cancer. I don't talk about it much, so and that was a really, really traumatic time in my life. But looking back on that, I saw how my well-being shone through. So when they tell you you've got cancer, that's not a conversation you want to have. And I remember the run up to it. They were throwing out all these different possibilities of what could have been going on. And I'd been to my GP, and she referred me to this bowel surgeon. She gave me this letter, and it said he might have Crohn's disease. So, and I was supposed to give this to the surgeon and not open it, but yeah, I opened it. So I'm like, what's Crohn's disease? I don't know what that is. Oh my God, I don't want that. I don't want that. Then I go to the surgeon, and through the test, it turns out you've got bowel cancer. Suddenly, Crohn's disease was looking good. I'll have some of that, And I said to him, well, what are your odds? What are my odds of getting through this? And he said, well, it's fairly advanced. We'll give you about 50-50. So I was like, oh my God. And then I was talking to my father-in-law, and he just off cuff, in a loving way, said, well, that's actually really good. If I was betting on a horse and had 50-50, I'd bet on that. That's a really good. I thought, oh, hang on. Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. Then I went in to see him for the final results of the autopsy, of the tests. Not autopsy, I wasn't there. Well, I don't think I was. And when I walked in, there was this lady there, and he introduced her. He said, her name's Anne, and she's a Macmillan nurse. And immediately I was like, I'm a goner, because I had this story about what Macmillan was and everything. And I was totally wrong. They had changed, but I didn't know that. And what I saw was throughout the whole process of the surgery and then the chemo and everything, I made certain choices that I chose to live. I wanted to be well, and I wasn't going to let it get me down. One of the things when you go for the chemo is you have an induction. And part of that is they tell you all these things could happen. And she started off on that, and I said, look, I really don't want to know. Just give me the bit of paper, I'll read it when it's right. And I put it in a drawer and I never opened it. Never looked at it. And I looked at it many years later, and of course it said your hair could fall out and this, that, and the other. But none of that happened to me. And I think none of that happened to me for several reasons. Maybe because I was younger, but also because I wasn't expecting it to happen. And if I had read it, I would have put it into my story and I would have created that. But instead, because maybe I was naive or whatever, I chose not to buy into the drama of it. And I chose to go through that. Now, I didn't know I was doing that at the time. Excuse me. And I think the principles, understanding that they point to how we create our experience. I can see that in so many areas of my life. And I see it in so many areas of my clients' lives, how they're running with this story. And the one thing I don't want to do is buy into their story. I look to their well-being, I point them back to that in a gentle way, and I'm not dismissive of their story, but I know it'll change. I know that, that there will be change, and it will be for the better, the more I point them back at who they really are. So, has it changed my clinic? Well, yeah. And has it changed every aspect of my life? Well, I've got to say yes. So that's a bit of a broad stroke answer, but it would be hard for me really to pin one down, that's it hasn't affected.
Don, thank you for sharing that. Like you said, not many people know about the cancer. I didn't know about that.
No, it's not part of my story anymore.
No, I hear that. But what is part of your story right now? You mentioned clinic. So you have is it an acupuncture clinic you still have?
Yeah, but I do acupuncture and I do body work.
Just
and then
for people to understand when you say clinic.
Right, yeah.
Point out that it's that you're doing. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because acupuncture, if you were to boil it all down, it's not about interfering with the body. It's purely about pointing the body back to its health. It's recognizing that there is this energy system within the body, if you believe in it or not, it doesn't really matter, it's still there, that you can remind it, hey, you're blocked here or you're overworking it. You need to calm down. And the body, a needle cannot do something to you. A needle just gives your body the information to do it to itself. And when you clear those blockages, just like with if you take, for instance, you're working with someone in the coaching, there'll be something they're not seeing or something they've come to believe that isn't serving them anymore. And it's gently engaging with that, showing them that, hey, there could be something different going on here that allows them suddenly to have this massive rush of new insights, new ways of looking at the world. And that's got nothing to do with me. And I love that fact. I don't want that responsibility. So it's certainly changed everything I'm doing.
Beautiful. I hope I haven't taken away from my final question. We shall see. You have to come up with new. Well, it's basically about something new, something fresh, because really it's asking you both, what have you seen recently? What's the most recent, most up-to-date, if you like, fresh for you in terms of understanding about well-being, I suppose. We're talking about well-being, but life in general, even.
Do you want me to kick off, Jill, or do you want to do it?
You're on a roll, Don. Go with it.
Go for it.
Okay. I was having a conversation with someone at a party about a month or so ago. And we were talking about conspiracy theories. And I love that stuff. I really love to debunk conspiracy theories. And it was just a gentle chat. It wasn't anything big. But then I had a realization. How many conspiracy theories are running in my mind? You see, we can talk about the Queen being a lizard. We can talk about they're the big things, right? And the internet's full of that. But I'm as capable as anyone else of running a conspiracy theory. That life is doing this to me, that this means that, and so on and so forth. And I don't see it. I don't see it. And what I realize is that's why we have feelings. See, feelings aren't good or bad. There's no such thing as a bad feeling. If Don, Sheila, and Gillian were to sit down and say, let's pick the feelings we want in our life. Well, we wouldn't go for anxiety, we wouldn't go for anger, we wouldn't go for any of them, but they're there. So if the system works and the system is perfect, well, what's going on? Why do we have them? Well, they're like a light system, aren't they? They tell us, oh, Don, you're running through an anxious conspiracy here. This is what's going on here. At that point there, obviously, I'm not going to trust the content. But it's the ability to look to the feeling that guides us back to our well-being. And not to say it's good or bad, it is our servant. It's our servant. We just sometimes shoot the messenger. And that's just not a good idea.
Like that one, Don. Conspiracy theories.
Yeah, I'm a conspiracy theory making machine.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that. That's interesting. Like that. Shall reflect on that one. Thank you. How about you, Gillian?
I love what Don just said. And I guess I was thinking before last night, I was just jotting down a few notes. And what kept coming up for me was fear. And where does fear come from? And for me, at that moment, it was, well, fear is just the illusion of separation. The illusion that something, someone is out there to get us. And we, like Don said, we're making it up. Always making it up. Yes, fight and flight. If there's, to use Jamie's metaphor, if there's a tiger in the room, of course, you're going to run. But we make up so many fearful circumstances or situations that don't ever happen. And I think, again, I just see how much I used to do that. How much I used to be frightened of dragons under the bed, of things that never happened. But I was so scared that I wouldn't even go out there and go to a party. Silly example, but I didn't know people that were going to be there, so I'm not going to go because nobody might speak to me. Big whole story. Load of codswallop. But I never gave myself the chance to find that out. And it comes back to what I said at the beginning, the limitation. And I just see that more and more, the limitation on who I can be, who we can all be. That lovely, lovely Marianne Williamson quote. It's our being small. We're not afraid of that, actually. We're afraid of who we really are. We're afraid of the huge contribution that we all have to make to humanity. And I think, especially given some of the tragic things that have been going on in the news, the more people that can insightfully see this understanding and get that it's not our circumstances, it's not the people out there that are attacking us or are wrong. It's just our thoughts about those circumstances in the moment that through consciousness we have feelings about, and that feeling is just giving us an indication of the level of our thinking at the moment. And for goodness sake, if more people could understand that, more people could see that, that's what called me to this in the first place. I just saw hope. I saw how we could fall in love with each other again in the broadest possible sense. And that just keeps coming up for me at the moment. What if? And you're contributing to that, Sheila. We're contributing to that. We're just speaking about it. Somebody may hear something and go, and the illusion falls from their eyes, and they say where their experience is coming from, their reality, how they're creating that story that we all have. Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful finish to this brief intro to you two. Thank you, Gillian. Yeah, that old chestnut fear. Hard to believe we create it ourselves so much of the time, isn't it? But yeah, like you said, it's the hope. There is hope for me anyway. I feel that very strongly with what we're sharing here about how we're creating our own realities, moment to moment to moment. There's definitely hope for humanity. Thank goodness for that. Thank you so much for being with me and recording this brief interview, this brief conversation for Viva. To find out more about Gillian and Don, you can go to our website, which is thevivaevent.com. They've got their official bios up there, and you can find out more about Viva there too. So just to say thanks a lot again, and speak to you all soon. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.